Welcome to Gozroth Tutorials. I'm Gozroth, and today I'm going to show you how to dynamically update a list using Noesis. So when we interact with our UI, it'll start to dynamically update our list, and we can see that we can select objects on the list, and then we can scroll through that list. First thing we're going to do is create a new studio project. So we're going to go over here, create new, navigate to wherever you have your Noesis projects being stored, and create a new folder. And this folder we're just going to call Dynamic List Tutorial. I'm just going to copy that because I'm also going to name the file the same thing. And we're going to be presented with a brand new project. I'm going to change the name to Dynamic List. And then I'm going to adjust our page so it's 1024 by 1024. And I'm going to add a list to our grid. So we're going to go to Add Elements, go down to Collection, and there's three types of elements that you can add to showcase a list. There's Items Control, List Box, and List View. They all have different capabilities. A list control is just going to show you what's in the list. A list box will show everything that's in the list and allow you to select objects within that list. And then a list view is kind of more like Excel. You can give each cell a header. You can have as many columns as you want. We're going to use list box. So I'm just going to click and drag that into our grid. And we can see it already gave us some items. Now I just want to do some formatting on our list box. I don't want it encompassing the entire page. So we're going to adjust the width to 500. And the height to 500. That way it centers it. And I don't want to have one column, I want to have two columns. And in order to do this, we're going to bring in the stack panel. So we're going to go use our panel layout, grab a stack panel and drop that on top of our list box. And we're going to make sure this is horizontal. And we're going to just make sure we stretch our width. So it's going to be set to 476. And our height probably doesn't need to be 100. Let's go with something like 40. And then inside our stack panel, we're going to add a list box item. So we're just going to drag that on top. And then we're going to duplicate that, so Control D. This one is going to house the ID. So we're going to go up to list box item on the top here and just add ID so we can name it. And then our other one will be name. Now our ID doesn't have to be this large, so we want to put in some content of just like a number, so we'll go 01. So as we can see, it doesn't need to be that large, so we can go down to something like maybe 40. And then our name can be the rest of the width. So if we look at our stack panel, it's 476 and our D is 40, so we're going to go with something like 436. And then that'll be our name. And just to show what that's going to look like, I'll put my name in here. So it's going to be Gozroth. So it'll look something like this. However, I also want to add some background. Click on our stack panel, and we can adjust the background of our stack panel to be black. So now we're going to create the data structure for our list. We're going to go to Data. We're going to create a new structure, and we're going to call this My List Item. And we're going to go over to properties, and we're going to have a number. We're going to call it ID, and then we're going to create another one. We're going to call it name, and this will be of type string. And then we can create the data set for that, and we can assign values if we want. Then we're going to create another data structure, and we're going to call this my list. And we're going to create a property. So we're going to go over here, properties, and we can call this players. And we're going to set the type to my list item. And we're going to make it a collection. So now if we were to create the data set, generate the player data, now we have some, and we click on one, we have name ID, and it just gives it some random values, and that's kind of what we're looking for. And in order to use this data set, we're going to then assign this to the root. So it's going to be assigned to our page, so that's where we get this blue dot here. And now we can assign the bindings to our stack panel. So we're going to click on ID, and we're going to create a new binding. And the only thing we're going to do is put ID for the path. And we're going to do the same thing for our name. So we're going to go in here, create a binding, and we're just going to call it name. Now we can save this as a template. So we're going to right click on our stack panel, make into a data template. And the default is global resources. And while this might be fine in the future, there is some disconnect between the global resources and our root. So just temporarily, what we're going to do, we're going to create this in the document root, and then we'll change the name to our list box item template, and we can hit accept. We can delete this now, and we're going to go to our list box, and we're going to scroll down to our templating. And where it says item template, we're going to want to drag in that template. So we're going to go over to resources, and here we have our list box template, and we're just going to drag that down to item template. So now it's going to use that template when it adds an item to our list. Now we can go and we can set up the bindings on our list box. So we're going to scroll all the way up to the top under item sources. We're going to create a new binding. This will be of type player, and now it should automatically generate. All right, so now at this point we are done in Noesis. We're going to save, so we'll look up to here, file, save everything, and now we can go back into Horizon, move this over here, and we're going to go to our asset library, go to My Assets, go to wherever your Noesis projects are being saved, and we're going to import our new projects. Hit import, and now we have our new project here, so we're just going to place that into the world. And there's some basic cleanup, so we want to position it so we can see it. So it's going to be 0, we can do 2 on the Y, 1 on the Z, and then we're going to go 180 degrees on the Y for rotation. We just want to make sure that we do have the correct Noesis project being selected, and that we select our root, so it's going to be dynamic list or whatever you named it. The rest of this information should be fine. However, we do now have to create the TypeScript file, and then you can create a new Noesis script. Let's call this the dynamic list tutorial. Create and attach. Now we can go to our scripts, and we can see that it is a shared script. Open our script so we can start coding. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a type. You can name this whatever. I'm going to call it player data. So it's going to be type player data. And if we remember, we wanted 2 types of variables. So we had ID and name. So we're just going to call this ID, and it's going to be of type number. And then we'll create one for name, and that'll be of type string. Next, we're going to create the data context, private data context, and we're going to have that equal some curly brackets. We named the array players, but just so that we get the correct spelling, we will check out the XAML file. The XAML file is in whatever folder you save the project to, so it'll be this XAML right here, and then you can open it with whatever IDE you use. And if we look at it here, we can see that our resource, page resources, we have our dictionary, and this is the template. All we need is this binding path here. It says players, and we're just going to paste that in here. So colon, it's an array, so we're going to make an array. So since it's an array of player data, we need to then create that player data. So it's going to be of ID, we can just say 0, and then name will be server player. Semicolon, bracket. But now we need to have a variable that we can save the player data to and set players to. So we're going to create another private variable. It's going to be private. We can call it players, and that'll be of type player data, and we're going to make it an empty array. And then we want to get when the player enters the world, pre-start, and this dot connect coblock event, this dot entity, and then we'll use the code block events with an S, and we'll just do it when they focus on, so on player focus UI, player of type player focused on, and we're not importing entities, so we need to copy that and paste it up here. Arrow function, And we wanted to call a method that will add the player to the player's variable. So we'll call it this dot add player. We don't care about focused on, so we're just going to have it send the player variable, and we'll close out our line. Now we need to create our add player method, and then that's just of type player, and we'll end our line there. But there's a couple things that we need to do on start before we can add anybody to the player's variable. We do need to set the Noesis gizmos data context. So we're going to go and start, and we'll just go this.entity.as type Noesis gizmo, and then we'll do data context equals this.data context. Now we want to set our data context to the empty player, so we're going to go this.data context.players equals this.players, and then when we add a player, we want to then push that information and then set the data context. So it'll be this.players.push, and it'll be ID will be player.id, and name will be player.name.get. And then we need to update the data context, so this.data context.players equals this.players. We're just going to make sure that players doesn't already have that player, so we'll go if this.players.find, and we'll just call it p.name, and if it equals player.name.get, we'll just return. That way we're only getting one player in the list. Add random player, and we need a random ID, so it'll be const random ID equals math.floor math.random, and then I don't want it to go over 2 digits, so we'll just multiply that by 90 and then add 10. And then we're going to generate a random name, so const random name, that'll be math.random.toString 36, and then we're going to set the substring to minimum to maximum 22, and then that'll be the end of that. And now we can this.players.push ID will be random ID, name will be random name. It'll be at the end of our line. This.data context.players equals this.players. And then we'll just do that every second. So we'll create a timeout. This.async.set timeout, and we'll have call add random player. This.add random player, and then we'll have it do that every second. And then we'll just copy this timeout and place it at add player, so it adds the player, and then after a second it adds a random player, and then every second after that. So now let's just start over here, and now when we interact, we get our name, and then it's just going to randomly generate an ID, a name, add that to the list, and we can see that we can actually select these, and once there's so many, we can scroll. And that's how we create a list in Noesis and then dynamically generate that list and set it to our UI in Horizon. That is all I have for this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the video, or have any suggestions for a future video, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you like the video, or if you learn anything, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're notified of all my future videos. And yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good one.